Tom lived alone in a small wooden house at the edge of the colony town. The colony was only 10 years old, built on a quiet world far from Earth. People came here to start new lives, away from the crowded cities of the home planet. Tom liked the silence. He worked at the repair station during the day and spent his evenings sitting on his porch, drinking warm tea, and watching the twin moons rise. His neighbors were few. Most of the houses on his street stood empty because many settlers had not yet arrived. The house right next to his had been empty for months, until a few weeks ago when a new resident moved in. She was not human. She was one of the alien settlers allowed to live among humans. People whispered about her in town, saying she was strange and quiet, but Tom never spoke to her. He only saw her once or twice from a distance. She was tall, with pale skin that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. Her dark eyes seemed deeper than shadows, and her steps were slow, almost graceful. People said she was a widow, but no one knew the details. On one quiet evening, as Tom sat on his porch with his tea, he heard a knock on his door. It was soft but steady, and in the silence of the night, it echoed clearly. Tom looked at the clock. It was late, far later than anyone ever visited him. For a moment, he thought it might be a mistake. Then the knock came again. He stood, set his cup aside, and opened the door. There she was. His new neighbor. The alien widow. She wore a dark cloak that covered her long figure, and her face looked calm yet uneasy. Her eyes fixed on him, and for a moment, Tom did not know what to say. "Forgive me," she said in a soft voice. Her words carried a faint accent but were clear enough. "I need your help." Tom blinked. Of all the people she could have gone to, why him? He hardly spoke to anyone, and he certainly did not know her. Still, her tone was not demanding. It was careful, almost desperate. "What kind of help?" Tom asked, unsure if he wanted the answer. She looked over her shoulder, as if checking if anyone was nearby, then back at him. "Not here." "May I come inside?" Tom hesitated. His instincts told him to be cautious. She was a stranger, and not even a human stranger. Yet something in her eyes made him step aside. He nodded, and she entered his small house. Inside, the light was dim. She pulled back her hood, and Tom saw her face more clearly. She looked young by human standards, but there was an air of age in her expression. Her features were smooth, her eyes large and deep, and there was a kind of sadness written across her face. "My name is Myra," she said softly. "Tom," he replied. She gave a slight nod. "I know. I have watched you for some time. You live quietly. You do not speak ill of others. That is why I came to you." Tom frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. "And what exactly do you need?" She did not answer right away. Instead, she walked to his window and looked outside. The night was calm, the moons shining bright, but she seemed uneasy. Only after a long pause did she turn back to him. "There are people searching for me," Myra whispered. "They believe I carry something that belonged to my late husband. They are not wrong. But I cannot let it fall into their hands. If it does, many lives will be in danger." Tom stared at her, trying to decide if she was telling the truth or if this was some strange trick. He had heard stories about alien settlers bringing old conflicts to human colonies, but he never thought it would reach his quiet home. "And what do you want me to do?" Tom asked slowly. "I need someone I can trust," Myra said. "Someone who is not bound to my people, someone who is not expected. You are that person. Tom shook his head. I'm no fighter, no soldier. I just fix machines. Myra's eyes softened. Sometimes, trust and courage matter more than weapons. Her words unsettled Tom. He wanted to tell her to leave, to take her problems elsewhere. Yet there was something honest in her gaze. She looked like someone who had lost much and had no one left. Before he could answer, a faint sound came from outside. A low hum, like an engine running too quietly. Myra froze, her eyes narrowing as she moved toward the door. She pressed a hand against the wood, listening. They are here, she whispered. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. He had not seen anyone approach, but her words carried certainty. Whoever was looking for her might already be nearby. What do we do? He asked. Myra looked at him, her expression steady but urgent. You must decide, Tom. If you open your door to me tonight, you will not live the quiet life you knew. If you turn me away, I will go, and you will never see me again. But you must choose now. The silence stretched between them. Tom's heart beat faster, his thoughts racing. He had lived years avoiding trouble, avoiding ties, avoiding risks. But here was someone standing in his home, asking for his help, offering nothing but trust. He thought of the empty house next door, of the strange figure he had watched from afar, of the loneliness he carried but never spoke of. Finally, he met her eyes and said, "Stay." Myra's shoulders eased, and for the first time, he saw a small flicker of relief cross her face. Then we face this together, she said. Outside, the quiet hum grew louder. Tom closed his door and locked it. Whatever this was, whatever she carried, his life had just changed forever. The sound outside faded slowly, but Tom and Myra stood still, listening. Tom held his breath, waiting for another sign. The night air pressed against the walls of his house, and the only noise inside was the soft ticking of his old clock. When no one knocked or entered, Myra turned away from the door. They will return, she said calmly. They never stop. Tom frowned. Who are they? Why are they after you? Myra looked at him with steady eyes. For a long moment, she seemed to measure whether he was ready to hear the truth. Then she walked to the chair near the table and sat down. Her movements were quiet, graceful, almost like a ritual. She folded her hands in front of her. My husband was a scientist, Myra began. He worked with the stars, with travel across the endless dark. He studied pathways that connect worlds. He discovered something few believed possible. He proved it. And then he died. Her voice did not break, but Tom could feel the weight in her words. She spoke as someone who had told herself this story many times but still carried the pain of it. Tom sat across from her, waiting. What he left behind, Myra continued, is more than research. It is a map, a guide, a key. It can open hidden roads through space. Whoever controls it can cross the galaxy faster than anyone else. To some, it means power. To me, it means danger. That is why they come. They believe I hold it. They are right. Tom rubbed his hands together, feeling the weight of her confession. He was just a repair worker. He fixed broken machines and kept to himself. And now this woman was telling him she carried something that could change the balance of power in the stars. And you came to me, Tom said. Out of everyone, why me? Myra's eyes softened again. Because humans are not yet part of our old wars. Your people are still new to the galaxy. Most of my enemies think of humans as children playing at survival. That is your shield. That is why they will not expect me to trust you. It gives us a chance. Tom leaned back in his chair, letting out a slow breath. A chance at what? At keeping the key safe, she said. At keeping it out of the hands of those who would burn worlds to control it. Silence hung between them for a moment. Tom tried to push the thought away, but it would not leave. If what she said was true, the danger was greater than anything he had ever imagined. Yet she sat in his small kitchen, speaking with calm certainty, as if his quiet life was now tied to hers. Tom stood and walked to the window. The colony town was still. The moons cast silver light on the dusty street. No shadows moved, but he could not shake the feeling that unseen eyes watched. "You are asking me to risk everything," he said. Myra nodded. "Yes. And what do I gain?" Tom asked. His voice was not sharp, but he needed to know. Myra did not hesitate. "If you help me, you will see what no human has seen. You will understand the stars in a way your people only dream about. My husband believed humans would rise higher than any race before them. He thought you were not limited by the same fears that held back others. He trusted you, even before meeting you. I believe he was right." Her words carried no promise of wealth or safety. Instead, she offered belief, a chance to hold something far greater than a simple life. Tom felt both fear and curiosity stirring in him. He turned back to her. "Where is it?" "The thing they are searching for." Myra reached into her cloak. For a moment, Tom thought she might draw a weapon, but instead she pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. She set it on the table and slowly opened it. Inside lay a crystal sphere, no larger than an apple. Its surface glowed faintly, not with light, but with shifting patterns that looked like rivers of stars moving under the glass. Tom leaned closer, eyes wide. "What is it?" he whispered. "The map," Myra said softly. "Every hidden path, every secret road between the stars, locked inside. My husband called it the Veil Sphere. It is both beautiful and terrible. In the wrong hands, it would allow an empire to strike anywhere without warning. No one could resist them. Worlds would fall before they even knew they were attacked." Tom felt his throat dry. He wanted to look away, but the sphere drew him in. The stars within seemed endless, alive, whispering of distances he could not imagine. He thought of Earth, of the colony, of every human settlement spread thin across the galaxy. If such a thing were used against them, they would never survive. Myra carefully covered the sphere again and hid it back inside her cloak. "Now you understand why I came here." Tom nodded slowly. He understood, but the weight of it pressed down on him. He had wanted a quiet life, and instead he was being asked to guard a secret that could decide the fate of countless worlds. Before he could speak again, Myra stood. "We cannot stay here long. They will search every house. When they do not find me in my home, they will look next to it. You must decide, Tom. Will you stand aside, or will you walk with me into danger?" Tom looked at her, then at his small home, the only place he had built for himself. If he said no, she would leave, and perhaps his life would return to silence. But he knew it would not. The memory of the sphere would stay. The thought of what might happen if she failed would haunt him. At last, he gave a slow nod. "I will help you. But you must tell me everything. No more secrets." Myra's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Then we begin together." The sound of engines returned outside, closer this time. Tom's heart beat faster, but he no longer felt like a bystander. The secret she carried was now his as well. He locked eyes with Myra. "What do we do first?" Myra stepped closer to the window, her gaze firm. "We survive the night." The engines outside grew louder, like a swarm of quiet machines circling the street. Tom pressed his back against the wall, his mind racing. He had agreed to help Myra, but now the weight of his choice pressed down harder than before. He wondered if his small house could protect them at all. Myra stayed calm. She moved toward the door but did not open it. Instead, she closed her eyes and listened. For a moment, she looked like a statue carved from silver stone. Then she turned to Tom. "They are searching for me," she whispered. "But they will not break into every house tonight. They want to frighten me into running. If I run, they can follow." Tom frowned. "So you are saying if we stay quiet, they may pass us?" "Yes," Myra said. "But they will not give up. Tomorrow, the search will grow wider. Soon, nowhere in this town will be safe for me. Or for you." Tom's jaw tightened. His life had always been built on avoiding risks, but now there was no safe corner left. "What do you want from me, Myra?" he asked, his voice steady but low. Myra turned toward him, her eyes shining faintly in the dim light. "I want you to help me keep the sphere hidden. I cannot trust my own people. Many would hand me over for a promise of favor. I need someone outside their reach. I need you." Tom shook his head slightly. "You hardly know me. I could betray you too." "You could," Myra admitted, "but you will not. You value honesty. I saw it in the way you live, in the way you work alone, in the way you do not gossip like others in this colony. My husband believed humans could rise above selfishness. I think he was right. If I am wrong, then I have nothing left to lose." Her words struck Tom harder than he expected. She had already lost her husband, her safety, and perhaps her home world. Now she placed what little she had left into his hands. Tom rubbed the back of his neck, thinking. If I say yes, what happens? What does helping you mean? Myra stepped closer, lowering her voice. It means traveling beyond this colony. It means carrying the sphere to a place where it cannot be taken. It means standing beside me when others will try to pull us apart. Tom looked at her carefully. And if I refuse? Then I walk out of your door tonight, Myra said. I do not return. You go back to your quiet life. But I cannot promise the war will not one day reach your doorstep, with or without me. Silence stretched between them. Tom felt his heart beat faster. He thought of the sphere, the rivers of stars flowing inside it, the weight of possibility and danger. He thought of Myra, alone, carrying a burden too heavy for one person. And he thought of himself, a man who had built walls to keep the world out, only to find the world knocking on his door anyway. Finally, he nodded. I will help you. But I need to know everything. No lies. Myra bowed her head slightly. No lies. You have my word. The engines outside began to fade, moving down the street. The night grew quiet again, though the tension in the air did not leave. Tom let out a slow breath and sat back down at the table. Myra remained standing, watching him with careful eyes. You have questions, she said softly. Tom nodded. You told me your husband trusted humans. Why? We are new to the stars. Most of the galaxy doesn't even see us as equals. Myra walked toward the table and sat across from him. Her voice was steady but carried a touch of sadness. He believed your strength came from your weakness. You are not as strong as many races. You are not as fast, not as long-lived. Yet you keep moving forward. You explore, you adapt, you learn faster than most. Where others see limits, you see chances. He thought that made humans dangerous, not in cruelty, but in resilience. He thought one day your people would guide the stars. Tom was quiet, trying to absorb her words. He had never thought of himself that way. He had only wanted peace, yet now someone spoke of humanity as if it carried a destiny. Myra leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on his. That is why I came to you. My husband believed in your kind. And I believe in you. Tom felt the weight of her trust settle on him like armor and chains at the same time. Part of him wanted to push it away, but another part wanted to stand taller beneath it. Then what do we do now? Tom asked. Myra reached into her cloak again, but this time she did not take out the sphere. Instead, she drew a small device, shaped like a metal disc. She set it on the table, and a faint glow lit the air above it. A map of the colony appeared, lines and dots marking roads, homes, and paths. We cannot remain here, she said. By tomorrow, they will search every home. We must move the sphere somewhere safe. There is an old station in the hills, built before this colony grew. It is abandoned now. Few know it exists. We can hide there for a time. Tom studied the glowing map. The station was marked far from the town, near a ridge of stone that cut across the land. The path looked rough but not impossible. And after that, he asked. After that, Myra said, we must decide where to carry the sphere. There are places beyond this world, far from the reach of my enemies. But first, we survive. Tom leaned back, feeling the choice settle inside him. He was no longer just a man with a quiet life. He was part of something larger, something that could not be ignored. He looked at Myra. Then we leave tomorrow. Myra nodded once, her face calm but her eyes bright with something deeper, hope, perhaps, or trust. The night stretched on, and the house grew quiet again. Tom lay awake on his bed later, listening to the wind outside. He thought of the offer she had given him, the choice he had made, and the path that now lay ahead. He knew his life would never be the same. The night was long for Tom. He did not sleep much, though he tried. Every sound outside made him tense. He thought of the strange hum of the engines, the hidden figures Myra spoke of, and the small crystal sphere that carried maps to the stars. His life had changed in one evening, and the weight of it pressed heavy on his chest. When morning came, the sun rose with a pale light. The colony town looked peaceful, but Tom felt a false calm in the air. He sat at the table with Myra, eating a simple meal. She ate little, her eyes watching the window more than her food. They will come again, she said. Tom nodded. He had already accepted it. Then we need to leave soon. The old station in the hills. You said it was safe. As safe as anywhere can be, Myra replied. It was built long before my people arrived here. Most colonists forgot it exists. That is why it can hide us, at least for a time. Tom packed quickly. He took only what he needed: tools, water, food, and a light pack. Myra carried the sphere close to her, hidden inside layers of cloth. They waited until the town grew busy, then slipped out through the back path behind Tom's house. The road toward the hills was rough. Dust rose around their boots, and the air grew warmer as the day passed. Tom walked ahead, guiding the way, while Myra followed in silence. She moved lightly, but there was a weight in her steps, as if she carried more than the sphere alone. By afternoon, they reached the edge of the colony. Fields stretched wide, dotted with machinery that harvested the soil. Workers moved slowly, paying little attention to two travelers. That gave Tom some comfort. He hoped the enemies hunting Myra would not draw attention in daylight. But as the sun lowered, shadows grew long, and Tom began to notice strange signs. A glimmer of metal on the far side of the field. A figure standing too still near a road. A faint sound in the wind, like engines running low. "They are here," Myra whispered. She had seen it too. Tom pulled her behind a storage shed, keeping low. His heart pounded as he peered around the corner. Across the dirt path, two tall figures stood, their forms covered in dark suits. They carried tools that glowed faintly at the tips, sweeping them across the ground like scanners. Their heads turned slowly, as if searching for heat or movement. "They are not human," Tom muttered. "No," Myra said softly. "They are trackers. They serve those who want the sphere." Tom felt sweat run down his neck. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to breathe steady. "We cannot fight them." "We do not need to," Myra said. "We only need to pass unseen." She reached into her cloak and drew a small device shaped like a shard of glass. It shimmered faintly in her palm. "This will bend light for a short time. It will not make us vanish, but it will blur us from their scanners." Tom stared at the device. "And you did not think to use that last night?" Myra gave him a faint, tired smile. "It only works for minutes. If I had used it then, we would have none left now." Before Tom could argue, she touched the shard, and a soft glow spread over them both. The air around them rippled, like heat rising from stone. Myra gripped his arm. "Stay close. Walk when I walk. Do not speak." They moved slowly, keeping low, crossing the dirt path. Tom's heart thundered in his chest. He could see the trackers only a few steps away. Their scanners swept across the field, glowing brighter as they passed near. Tom held his breath, afraid even a gasp would give them away. One tracker paused, turning its head toward them. Tom froze. The figure stood still for a long moment, then turned back to the field. The glow around Tom and Myra flickered, then faded. Myra pushed him forward quickly. They ducked behind another shed and ran across the open field until they reached the tree line. Only then did Tom let out the breath he had held. "That was too close," he said, leaning against a tree. "It will not be the last time," Myra replied. She tucked the shard away. "They are skilled. They will follow us into the hills. But there, the land gives us more cover." They pressed on. The trees grew thicker, and the ground rose into rocky slopes. By nightfall, they reached the lower edge of the hills. Tom's legs ached, but he forced himself to keep moving. Myra showed no sign of slowing, though her face was pale from the strain. They stopped near a cluster of rocks to rest. The stars stretched wide above them, brighter than in town. Tom sat on a stone, drinking water, while Myra stood watch. "Why do they want it so badly?" Tom asked after a while. "The sphere. I understand it gives power, but what do they hope to gain?" Myra's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "Control. To them, the galaxy is not a place to explore, but a board to rule. With the sphere, they can strike at any world, move fleets faster than anyone can defend. They dream of an empire without walls." My husband believed such power would end freedom. That is why he hid it, why he gave it to me. And why they killed him. Tom felt a cold shiver at her words. He wanted to ask more, but a sound cut through the night. A branch cracked in the darkness. Myra turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. They are here. Tom grabbed his pack and stood. Shapes moved between the trees, dark figures stepping silently over the ground. Faint lights glowed from their scanners, sweeping across the forest. Run, Myra whispered. They dashed up the rocky path, stones crunching under their boots. Tom's chest burned, but fear pushed him faster. The trackers followed, their glowing tools lighting the trees behind them. Tom stumbled, but Myra pulled him up, never letting him fall. They climbed higher, the path twisting around the hillside. The air grew colder, the wind sharper, but the shadows stayed close behind. At last, Myra pointed toward a dark shape ahead. There. The station. Through the trees, Tom saw it, a broken structure of metal and stone, half buried in the hillside. Its walls were cracked, its windows shattered, but it stood like a fortress forgotten by time. They pushed the heavy door open and slipped inside. Dust filled the air, and the smell of rust lingered, but the walls were thick. Tom leaned against the door, gasping for breath. Myra pressed her hand to the wall, listening. Outside, faint footsteps echoed, then faded. For the moment, they were safe. But Tom knew the shadows were not gone. They would return. The station walls creaked in the cold wind. Dust swirled across the floor, and broken wires hung like cobwebs from the ceiling. Tom moved carefully through the dark room, shining a small light from his pack. The station had been abandoned for years, but it still carried the smell of metal and oil. Myra followed close behind, her cloak brushing against the rusted walls. She looked around with careful eyes, scanning every shadow. At last, she spoke. This place will hold us for a little while. The walls are thick, and the rocks around it block most scanners. They will still search, but it will take time. Tom nodded. He set down his pack on an old table and took a deep breath. His chest still burned from the climb, but the safety of the station gave him a small measure of relief. We cannot hide here forever, Tom said. What is our next step? Myra reached into her cloak and pulled out the sphere. She set it on the table, and again, the shifting rivers of stars glowed beneath its surface. The light reflected across the walls, turning the broken station into a chamber of galaxies. Tom could not look away. This is not just a map, Myra explained. It is a guide to paths hidden in space. My husband called them the Veil Roads. They allow a ship to travel in moments what would normally take years. Tom frowned. And you want us to take it somewhere safe? Yes, Myra said. There is a human shipyard 2 systems away. It is young, still building, but your people are honest. If we can reach them, the sphere will be beyond the reach of my enemies. Tom leaned on the table, studying the shifting stars. How do we get there? We have no ship. Myra pointed to one of the glowing lines inside the sphere. There is a wormhole hidden near this planet. Few know of it. If we reach it, we can cross to a system close to your shipyard. But reaching it will not be easy. My enemies know of its existence. They will guard it. Tom rubbed his forehead. He was not a soldier, not a leader, but every choice pulled him deeper into a path of danger. Still, turning back no longer felt possible. We need a plan, Tom said. Myra gave a small nod. We will leave at dawn. The hills give us cover. If we move quickly, we can reach the old spaceport by midday. There may still be ships there, left behind by settlers. If we can repair one, we can fly to the wormhole. Tom's eyes narrowed. You think there is a ship just waiting for us? Not waiting, Myra said. But hidden. I have been watching this world for many weeks. I know what lies in the spaceport. One vessel still rests there. Damaged, but not beyond your skill. Tom felt a flicker of pride at her words. He was not a warrior, but he was a repairman. Machines spoke to him in ways people never did. If survival depended on fixing a ship, then perhaps he could give them hope. The night stretched long. Tom worked with his tools, checking wires and circuits in the station to test his equipment. Myra stood watch by the broken window, her sharp eyes scanning the hills. They spoke little, but the silence between them no longer felt heavy. At dawn, they set out. The rising sun cast gold light over the hills as they moved quickly through rocky paths. Tom carried his pack on his shoulders, heavy but steady. Myra walked ahead, moving with quiet steps that seemed almost weightless. By midday, they reached the edge of the old spaceport. It lay in ruins, half buried in dust. Broken towers leaned against the wind, and hangars stood silent and empty. The place felt forgotten by time. Tom crouched low, scanning the area. No movement. They will come, Myra said. But for now, it is empty. They slipped into one of the hangars. Inside, a single ship rested beneath layers of dust. Its wings were cracked, and its engines were dark, but its frame stood strong. Tom's heart jumped at the sight. He ran his hands across the hull. This could fly. It will take work, but it can fly. Myra set the sphere down on a crate, its glow lighting the hangar. Then you must work quickly. I will watch the doors. Tom pulled out his tools and set to work. The ship's engines were clogged with sand, its wires eaten by rust. But Tom's hands moved with skill. He cleaned, rewired, and adjusted with the focus of a man who had spent his whole life fixing broken machines. Every click of a bolt and spark of a wire brought the ship closer to life. Hours passed. Sweat dripped from his face, but Tom did not stop. Myra brought him water, her eyes always scanning the shadows outside. At last, Tom pressed a switch. The ship's engine rumbled, slow at first, then louder, until a steady hum filled the hangar. Tom let out a breath of relief. It works, he said, smiling for the first time in days. Myra's lips curved into a faint smile. Then hope still lives. But their relief did not last. A sound echoed from outside, the low hum of engines, steady and cold. Myra froze, her eyes sharp. They found us, she whispered. Tom looked toward the door, his heart pounding. Dark figures moved in the distance, scanners glowing as they swept across the broken spaceport. How many? Tom asked. Enough, Myra said. We must leave now. Tom climbed into the pilot's seat. He was no pilot, but the ship's controls looked familiar enough. Myra slipped in beside him, the sphere cradled in her arms. The hangar door creaked as the ship's engines roared. Dust swirled through the air. Outside, the trackers turned toward the sound. Hold tight, Tom said. His hands gripped the controls, and the ship lurched forward. The floor shook as it rose slowly from the ground. For a moment, Tom thought it would fail, but the engines carried it upward. The hangar doors burst open, and the ship shot into the sky. Beams of light flashed past them as the trackers fired strange weapons from below. The ship shuddered, but it climbed higher, breaking through the clouds. Tom held the controls tight, his jaw set. Myra placed a hand on the sphere, her eyes closed. "The wormhole is north," she said. "I will guide you." The chase had begun, and the escape plan was in motion. The old ship shook as it cut through the clouds. Alarms blinked across the control board, and the metal frame groaned under the strain. Tom kept both hands on the controls, fighting to keep the vessel steady. He was no trained pilot, but years of fixing machines had given him an instinct for how they breathed and moved. Myra sat beside him, her cloak wrapped around her, the glowing sphere held carefully in her lap. Her eyes remained calm, even as the ship rocked under enemy fire. "They are following us," Tom said through clenched teeth. "Yes," Myra replied. "But the wormhole is close. If we reach it before they close in, we will escape." Tom risked a glance at the rear screen. Black ships streaked after them like shadows, their sleek shapes moving faster than his patched vessel could manage. Beams of pale light sliced through the sky, one grazing the left wing. The ship lurched, sparks bursting from the console. Tom's heart pounded, but his hands stayed firm. He guided the ship into a sharp climb, twisting between the clouds. "They are faster," he muttered. "But maybe not smarter." Myra leaned forward, pressing her hand against the sphere. The shifting stars inside rearranged themselves, forming a glowing path that stretched ahead. "There," she said. "Follow that line. It will lead us to the Vale Road." Tom turned the controls, forcing the ship onto the glowing trail. The engines roared, trembling with the strain, but the vessel obeyed. The air thinned, stars began to appear, and the vast darkness of space opened before them. The enemy ships did not stop. They rose higher, following like hunters. "Engines are near their limit," Tom said, sweat on his brow. "One more hit and we may not make it." Myra closed her eyes, whispering words Tom did not know. The sphere brightened, casting light across the cabin. Then, ahead, space itself seemed to bend. A tear opened in the darkness, glowing with a faint silver light. "The wormhole," Myra said. Her voice carried both hope and fear. "That is the entrance to the Vale Road." Tom's jaw tightened. "Then we go through." The ship hurtled toward the tier. Beams of enemy fire struck again, rocking them hard. Panels fell from the ceiling, and the rear screen went black. Tom forced the controls forward, every muscle in his arms straining. For a moment, he thought they would not make it. Then the ship passed through the silver tier. Light swallowed everything. The noise of battle faded, replaced by silence. The stars outside vanished, replaced by swirling rivers of silver and gold. It was not normal space. It was a tunnel made of light, stretching in every direction. The ship drifted inside as if caught by unseen currents. Tom exhaled, his hands loosening on the controls. "We made it," he said, his voice almost disbelief. Myra finally opened her eyes. Her face was lit by the soft glow of the Vale Road. "Yes. For now, we are safe." Tom leaned back in his chair, his heart still racing. He looked out at the glowing tunnel. "What is this place?" Myra's eyes softened. "It is a path between stars. My husband and I discovered it many years ago. Only a few know how to enter. It bends the rules of space, carrying travelers faster than light itself. But it is not without danger." Tom frowned. "Danger?" The Vale Road is alive in its own way, Myra explained. It shifts, it tests, and sometimes it rejects those who do not belong. Tom glanced uneasily at the tunnel of light outside. The ship floated forward without his touch on the controls, as if carried by a great unseen river. And do we belong? Myra looked down at the sphere. That will depend on us. For a while, silence filled the cabin. Tom adjusted damaged wires on the console, while Myra studied the glowing paths ahead. Then the ship trembled, just slightly. Tom looked up. What was that? Myra's gaze sharpened. The road is watching us. Outside, the light shifted. Shapes began to form in the tunnel, shadows flickering against the golden glow. They grew into figures, tall and strange, with outlines that twisted like smoke. They moved alongside the ship, their faceless heads turning toward it. Tom's chest tightened. What are those? They are the keepers, Myra whispered. Guardians of the road. They test all who pass. The shadows pressed closer, their forms rippling against the ship's hull. The lights inside flickered. Tom gripped the controls again, though the ship did not respond as before. What do they want? He asked. They want to know if we are worthy, Myra said. If we are guided by greed or by need. Tom swallowed. His mind rushed with doubt. He was just a man from a small world, fixing broken machines and living a quiet life. Why would the road accept him? The shadows pressed closer, wrapping around the ship. The air grew heavy, though they were deep in space. Tom felt a weight in his chest, like the road itself was searching inside him. Memories flickered in his mind, his long days of repair, his nights alone, his choice to open the door when Myra knocked. He had not chosen this path for power or riches. He had chosen because she needed help. As the thought settled, the weight lifted. The shadows drew back. The tunnel of light brightened, and the ship surged forward. Myra opened her eyes, relief softening her face. They have accepted you. Tom let out a shaky breath. I didn't do anything. You did, Myra said softly. You stayed true to who you are. That is what the road values. Tom sat back, the words sinking into him. He had never thought of himself as special, but for the first time, he wondered if maybe he carried more than he believed. The ship moved smoothly now, carried along the glowing tunnel. Myra leaned closer to the sphere, her voice steady again. This road will take us near your shipyard. From there, we can place the sphere in safe hands. Tom nodded, though doubt still lingered. And your enemies? They will not give up, Myra said. Her gaze was distant. They know what this sphere means. They will chase us until one side wins. Tom looked out at the endless glow of the Vale Road. He had thought his life would always remain small, bound to one world. But now he saw paths stretching far beyond, and he knew there was no turning back. The ship sailed forward through the light. Behind them, shadows of pursuit still lingered at the edges of the tunnel, waiting for another chance. Ahead, the glow opened into new stars. The Vale Road had accepted them, but their journey was far from over. The Vale Road stretched behind them like a river of stars as Tom guided the ship toward the edge of the wormhole exit. The glow of nearby systems began to appear through the tunnel, and Myra's eyes shifted from the sphere to the navigation display. We are close, she said. The wormhole will deposit us near your human shipyard. We must act quickly before any of my enemies catch up. Tom nodded, gripping the controls tightly. His body ached from the tension of the past days, from the climb through hills, the chase through the colony, and the fight through the wormhole. Yet his mind was focused. He had learned to trust Myra's guidance, and now he had to trust himself. The exit approached, a glowing ripple stretching across the darkness. Tom adjusted the ship's trajectory carefully, making sure the engines stayed within safe limits. One wrong move, and they could be lost in the void between stars. Suddenly, Myra pointed to the rear sensors. "They are here," she warned. Tom looked back. A single sleek ship moved fast, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Its engines glowed a cold blue, cutting through space as it closed in. "They made it through the wormhole," Tom said grimly. "We cannot outrun them in this vessel." Myra held the sphere close. "Then we must be clever. The human shipyard has defenses. If we can reach it, we can hide. The sphere will be safe there." Tom's jaw tightened. "Then we try." He adjusted the controls, weaving the ship in sudden turns, using the gravity of nearby asteroids to push them forward. The pursuing ship followed, but every maneuver slowed its progress slightly. Tom's skill as a repairman, as someone who understood machines, allowed him to push the vessel beyond its expected limits. Ahead, the human shipyard came into view. It was not large, but its docks were functional. Several vessels rested there, half complete, half repaired, waiting for humans to use them. Tom's eyes scanned the area, looking for cover or a place to land safely. "There," he said. "A hangar on the east side. We can land inside and block the entrance. They cannot follow." Myra nodded. "Do it quickly. They will not hesitate to fire if we are exposed." Tom pushed the ship downward, carefully guiding it between debris and broken structures. The engine roared, straining, but it held. The hangar door was just ahead. Tom timed the descent perfectly, and the ship slid inside. Dust and sparks flew as the hull scraped the floor, but the vessel came to a steady stop. Myra jumped from the co-pilot seat and quickly pressed a control on the sphere. A faint barrier of energy shimmered around it. "The sphere will stay safe here," she said. "No one can take it without my permission." Tom exhaled, his chest rising and falling quickly. "We made it." "But what about them?" Outside, the pursuing ship hovered near the hangar. Its engines glowed brighter, ready to strike. Tom peeked through a small window. The enemy pilot was scanning, but the barrier from the sphere prevented detection. They would have to wait, at least for now. Myra placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "We are safe, for now. But the sphere must remain hidden. Your people will protect it until the galaxy understands what it means." Tom looked at her, realizing how much trust she placed in him. He was a single man from a quiet colony world, yet here he was, carrying the weight of human destiny in the stars. "What now?" he asked. Myra smiled faintly. "We recover. We plan. We ensure the sphere is never misused. And we remember why we fight, not for power, but for life, for freedom, and for hope." Tom nodded. The shipyard was quiet now. Their pursuers could not enter, and the stars beyond promised a future full of possibilities. He thought of humanity, small and young, yet capable of courage, trust, and resilience. Hours passed, and Myra and Tom prepared the ship for repairs. They checked engines, rewired panels, and ensured the sphere remained secure. The station was their sanctuary, a place to gather strength before the next journey. As the twin suns of the nearby system rose, Tom looked out at the endless expanse of stars. He realized that humanity's future was not written by strength alone, but by choices, by trust, and by courage. Myra had believed in him, and through him, humanity had a chance to rise higher than anyone had predicted. Tomorrow, Myra said softly, we will decide where the sphere goes next. It is too important to remain here. Too important to fall into the wrong hands. Tom nodded. We will choose wisely. Together. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of responsibility not as a burden, but as a gift. He had been given a chance to shape more than his life, more than his colony. He had been given a chance to shape the future of humanity among the stars. Outside the hangar, distant engines pulsed in the void. The enemies were still out there, waiting, but they would not find the sphere. They would not claim it while humans were willing to fight for trust and freedom. Myra touched the sphere, her eyes bright. My husband believed in humans, she said. I was not sure. But now, I see he was right. Your kind is ready to rise. Tom smiled faintly. Then let's make sure we do not fail him. The ship sat quietly in the hangar, surrounded by the soft light of distant suns. Outside, the galaxy stretched wide, full of danger, but also full of hope. The sphere glowed faintly, a reminder of the journey, of trust, and of the choices that had brought them here. Together, Tom and Myra had crossed impossible distances, outwitted relentless enemies, and survived the tests of the Veil Road. Humanity had been tested as well, through the courage and honesty of a single man. And now, at the edge of the human shipyard, the choice was theirs to make. They would protect life, preserve freedom, and honor trust. In doing so, they proved that humans, though young among the stars, carried within them a strength that no force could underestimate. Tom looked at Myra and nodded. We will make the right choice. For humanity. Myra smiled, holding the sphere close. For the stars, she said. The galaxy awaited them, full of paths yet to be discovered, challenges yet to come, and victories yet to be earned. And together, humans and their allies would rise, strong and unwavering, among the stars.